Good morning, everybody. David Shapiro here with a video. We are going to do some DALLE tutorials today. I've got a list of some examples to show you. Most of these are going to be style tags, just to show you kind of how to get what you want out of DALLE. Just to show you some of the styles. So the first one is high fantasy art. So let's say Elven archer in a sunny forest. High fantasy art. So we'll give that. One thing that I found is that less is more. If you look at some of the good ones, you give it just enough to go on, and then you let it go. One thing that I found is I often have an idea in my head as to how I want it to look, but it often doesn't work. So in this case, I just said Elven archer in a sunny forest, and it gave me exactly what I asked for. I'm going to save these real quick. You can take a quick look. This one could be Legolas. This one's good. And so the fact that I said like high fantasy art, so that tells you that like it's not going to be a 3D rendering. So let me just show you. If you just change high fantasy art to 3D render, otherwise it stays the same, you can get very, very, very different results. So I'll probably just leave it as Elven archer in a sunny forest and then change the tags so that way you can kind of see how it varies depending on just the style tag that you give it. Oh, this is pretty. This looks like it could be from Skyrim. So very different style. Still overall the same thing. It's interesting they're all pointing to the right. Oh, there we got one pointing to the left. Those arrowheads are really big. So yeah, just changing it from high fantasy art, you can tell that this is like clearly like it looks like a digital painting, and then the 3D render is not quite fully rendered-ish looking, but it's better. Like especially when you look at the light and the grass, it's a little bit different. Let's see, what else did I do? Abstract art. Oh, there we go. Abstract art like a dream. So this will probably be pretty different. I know this is boring. Sorry. It seems like it's going slower than it should, or maybe I wasn't talking enough. Ooh, okay. So when I say like abstract art like a dream, you can see that it's not attempting to be representational as much. This is more impressionistic, but there's also artifacts that make it so that like you kind of lose meaning, but you can still see that the archer in the middle is kind of obvious. That face is a little unsettling. But you see these, oh, what is that called? My mind blanked. But the like basically the lens flares. So it kind of makes it a little more disorienting. This one is interesting. It's more impressionistic. You've got this oversaturation of the light to show that it is sunny. But I mean, I could imagine having a memory like this of a dream. This one is really interesting. There's a lot of motion blur almost. You see it's like this, you've got this radial motion blur. This is really good. Let me save that one. This one almost looks vaguely like highly stylized Eastern, like a video game character like from Dynasty Warriors. This one looks also vaguely like monkish or martial, but also like you're really losing some definition. Very dreamlike. Love it. And so just showing the difference, like this one looks a little bit more like one of the renderings. So we've got the dreams, then we've got the render, and then we've got the high fantasy art. So you can see you get very, very different results. Let's do wide angle shot. Well, and I'll change it to photo. Wide angle photo. This will probably look like a cosplayer. It's really interesting. I'm not sure what the background training data of DALLE was, because I put in like Ghost in the Shell, and that was really disturbing. It does not know what Ghost in the Shell is. So it seems like the training data that they used, they were trying to avoid anything that was like licensed, or anything that was like proprietary. So it gave me like a ghost and then like a bulbous robot. Okay, so we do have a wide angle shot. This is, you see the sun here, but it's, oh, we do have some lens flare, so that's like an artifact from a real thing. The trees look very realistic with the branches and yeah, trees have branches. That's real. I realize how silly I must sound sometimes. Okay, but yeah, this looks like it could be a photo shoot from cosplay, except we have this uncanny valley thing. That's fine. Okay, what was next? Aerial drone shot. So by changing the perspective, so it's kind of redundant because if you just say like drone shot, that's usually enough. If you just say aerial, that's enough. But I found that if you say like aerial drone shot, it will definitely give you a high angle shot. It's a little bit redundant, but it doesn't cost anything extra, and I found that you get a little bit more consistent of results. So you can see, again, it's still an elven archer in a forest, but now the perspective is very different. This is pretty cool. Yeah. So we got the high angleness. So think about where you want the perspective to be from. So that worked rather well. Let's see, speculative art. So one thing that I found, especially if you're trying to get something that is like not necessarily realistic, like I was trying to do a render of a friend's book of a character, and they were supposed to be like a cat folk, like cat person, but it just kept giving like a woman with a cat on her shoulders, and I'm like, no, like humanoid cat, like cat folk. And so if you add something like speculative art or sci-fi or fantasy, then it's like, oh, you want like, a Khajiit. But otherwise it'll try and keep it photorealistic, because if you have like cat and woman, or, not cat woman, but like cat folk in a shot, and I'll show you in a second, because it's really funny what it tries to do. In terms of like trying to keep it realistic. So speculative art. So I really, really like speculative art. This looks like almost like character concept art. Like you could imagine if you're storyboarding, like some character designs. This actually looks way better. This is almost like Magic the Gathering card. Oh, look at that. It's like an elf version of Geralt. So I really like the speculative art tag, style tag. It tends to get pretty good results because it's a little bit cleaner, right? And it's a little bit simpler. Because you look at this one and it's like, okay, this is something you could easily adapt. There's a lot less noise, whereas you go to some of the original one, like the high fantasy art, and it's not as bad. It's not bad, but you get like, it's just not as clean. You see like the hair is kind of messy. It almost looks like it's been sponged or something. So high fantasy art is good for some things, but the speculative art really gives you that clean aesthetic. I already showed you 3D render. Let's do dramatic photo. Dramatic photo tends to do better with if you want a portrait of someone, because it'll give you a nice tight shot and with a neutral background usually. But let's see how dramatic photo does here. Yeah, so like I really like the dramatic photo if you want to describe someone's face. Oh, that's interesting. Some of this is not remotely what I was asking for. That's a still life. That's fine. Okay, did not handle this well. For some reason, it just wants to show me food in the forest. That's fine. The dramatic photo is really good. So let's say pretty elf with green eyes and a face tattoo. I'm a big fan of Dragon Age, so you can see where I got the inspiration for this. So we take out the sunny forest and describe the face, and then say dramatic photo. Actually, no, we'll just say pretty woman with green eyes and a face tattoo, dramatic photo, because this will be more photorealistic. And we'll go back to the elves in a second. So one thing I noticed about DALL-E is that if you include any sci-fi or fantasy words in it at all, the photorealism drops through the floor. So what I'll do is here we go. Perfect. Look at this. So dramatic photo, it gives you crazy lighting. It got the green eyes, although they're a little unsettling. This one's good. This one's really good. So you see how like it nailed, like you can see pores on her skin, right? It can do close-ups really well. And it's almost photorealistic. Ooh, she's imposing. Okay, so then if you just change one word, we'll change pretty woman to pretty elf. And you'll see that the photorealism drops through the floor. It's gonna look more messy. And that's just, I think it's an artifact of the training data, because any image that it was trained on that had elf was more likely to be digital art, digital painting, stuff like that. Actually, no. I was completely wrong. Maybe it was because of how simple it was. It is still less photorealistic than the other ones, but not bad. I'm actually impressed. It got the pointy ears, big eyes, and small face, which is pretty typical of an elf. It was missing. Oh no, I guess it's got a tattoo. That's either a tattoo or a strand of hair. That's fine. Okay, so I was wrong. I've not had good luck with fantasy characters in the past if it was supposed to be a photo. But maybe it's because I picked elf, which is a very common trope. And there's plenty of photorealistic elves out there because of stuff like Lord of the Rings. Okay, so let's get this back. Speculative art, high quality photo, pointialism. So pointialism is fun. Did I spell it wrong? It's got 2 L's. So pointialism, if you've ever seen any of the old naturalists, like Charles Darwin drawings of things, pointialism was very common before photography as a way to document what you saw out in nature. And so if you wanted to draw like a representation of a turtle or a frog or something, you'd do pointialism as an art style. I think because one, it was easy to reproduce in print, like on wood blocks, but also I think it was easier to learn because it doesn't require, well, I don't know. I'm not an artist, but pointilism was popular. And so you can see this is an easy style to adopt. Yeah, it worked pretty well. Pointialism is fun. And then what is it called? Like Ukiyo? I think I'm spelling that wrong. Okay, anyways, there's plenty of other art styles out there. So then what I found was that if you give it an artist, you can get some pretty amazing results. So Elven Archer in a Sunny Forest by H.R. Geiger. So Geiger, as you might be familiar with, is the guy who was behind the aesthetic of Alien. So those really eerie xenomorphs. Also, Geiger's artwork was in part used for Dune, actually, some of the murals of the worm. So this is interesting because you see some of the like flowing curves and abstractness, but it doesn't really look like Geiger, but it's still a very different style than the previous renderings. Oh, here you go. You see there's more metal. Yeah, okay, there we go. So you get the curves and the metal. That's channeling some Geiger, but of course Geiger did like aliens and machines and vaguely erotic stuff. So he never really did any elves. Let's do Soriyama. Soriyama also did Soriyama? I think I'm spelling that right. Soriyama did a lot of like chrome looking robots. It's a very distinctive art style, so we'll see if it channels that. There we go, Ukiyo-E. Okay, that didn't come through at all. This doesn't look anything like Soriyama's artwork. That's fine. I didn't expect it would. His artwork is a little bit more obscure, especially in the West. Very popular in the anime crowd. That almost looked like Link. A very effeminate, well, I guess Link is effeminate. Okay, so did not get Soriyama, that's fine. Salvador Dali. So put in another artist. I did if you ask for something that's similar to what an artist might have produced, it tends to do pretty well. But if you try and like say like do something that's completely off the wall that this artist never would have touched, it kind of guesses. And the fact that I'm saying like, oh, there we go, this worked really well. Look at that. Okay, so you see like the exaggerated legs, and the art style. Okay, so it worked pretty well with Dolly. I like the archer is way over here. Yeah, these almost look like tarot cards. This is great. Okay, so that worked pretty well. MC Escher. I'm going to skip Escher. You get the idea about artists. So then let's do company logo. Let's do minimalist company logo. And I might need to take out the sunny forest bit. So like, I can imagine like whatever the company is, maybe it's like a fantasy studio and you just want a simple elven archer as your logo. But let's see. Oh, look at that. Perfect. Yeah. Dolly can't spell. It's one of the funny things is like Archern. Yeah, that worked pretty well. It gave me a nice clean logo. I love it. Yeah, some of these are pretty good. And then fractal art. Fractal art is so there's a few subreddits. One's called like r/fractal porn. And then there's fractal gifs, which are just super trippy. But yeah, so I just wanted to show you that like Elven Archer in a Sunny Forest, depending on the tag that you give it, you can get completely different results. And I think I'll call it here just so that you can see. There's not a whole lot fractal here, although it is very colorful. I like it. It's pretty. Get a little bit of a motion blur on this one. Again, I'm not surprised that it's kind of struggling. This is getting pretty trippy. It's struggling because anything where it says like Elven Archer, right? You're gonna have specific expectations. So you do like, I guess I'll do one more. Rainbow Clouds, fractal art. So if you give it, basically what happens is it's going to be biased towards certain styles. It depending on what the subject matter is. So like if you do like photo of a woman, they're all going to be kind of like more like portraits, right? There we go. Here we got the fractals. So this doesn't even look like clouds to me, but it's pretty darn cool. So you see like this is clearly like rainbow, cloudy, fractal, fractal artwork. So that worked really well. But this last one, because it said Elven Archer in a Sunny Forest, it's like, I don't really know how to do that. You can imagine how you might want it to look, but sometimes the style tags are just not going to work. Anyways, I think this is good for now. I hope this was a helpful initial tutorial about how to get different styles out of Dolly. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for later.